Hello guys, this is Ali back again and you are watching my channel regarding hair transplant. So as I've mentioned in my last video that all the restrictions got lifted up after the end of 2 weeks. This is the reason you can see me wearing my t-shirts again, and it really feels very good to be back to the normal life as it was before getting the hair transplant done. So in today's video, I'll be discussing about my progress throughout the week 3, and I'll be sharing a picture of each day with you guys. Apart from that, I'll be talking about the hair fall phase after the hair transplant. So let's start with the picture of progress of week 3. So this is how the donor area looks like from day 15 onwards. As you can see, the hairs have gone thicker and bigger now and is trying to blend with the surrounding hairs. There are only areas of small baldness, particularly on the boundaries of the donor area. But as the time passes, I'm expecting the hairs to grow well and cover this area as well. Also, if we notice closely that there are some small hairs sprouting out apart from the hairs that were already present, these might be the hair who suffered the shock loss because of the surgical instrumentation, and some of these have already started to regrow. So this is how the donor area looks like on the completion of 3 weeks on day 21. As you can see that most of the donor area has already got covered with the hairs, and I think by the end of 4 weeks or maybe 1.5 months, the whole of the donor area will be covered with hairs. So now let's have a look at the recipient area. Now, as we go through the picture, you will notice that the hairs are getting bigger as each day passes. But I must tell you that they are still very thin and the growth is very slow as compared to the hairs in the rest of the head. If you have a look at the center area of the transplanted hair, it may looks like that it contains less hair as compared to the rest of the recipient area. But I think this was the area in which I already had few hairs before undergoing transplant, and those hairs have suffered shock loss and haven't recovered yet from it, and hasn't restarted to grow as well. But if you look from the front, overall the head looks fully covered with hairs. And here is the picture of how the hairline looks like from the side, and now from the front as well. And this picture was taken today on completion of 3 weeks on day 21. So I also wanted to show you guys how the transplanted hairs looks like after completion of 3 weeks up close in live video. So let's have a look. So this is just a glance to see how the transplanted hairs are looking, and you can see that it has started to blend off with the non-transplanted hairs that were previously present as well. So if I come up close, you can see the hairline and it looks pretty good at the moment. But if you look closely, there are small patches in which there are less amount of the hairs compared to the rest of the recipient area or the transplanted area. This is particularly because that these hairs have fallen off during the hair wash or the oiling process. I'll come back and talk about this when I'm talking about the hair fall phase. So as you can see, the growth of the hairs are pretty much good at the moment. It's a bit slow, but it's still growing. Like in 3 weeks, it's almost similar to the hair that were present previously, and the transplanted hairs are matching growth of that hair as well. So let's have a look at the donor area now. So I hope you can see this donor area, and this was actual boundaries or the demarcation of the donor area, which I think has pretty much gone now and blended well with the rest of the hairs. But I think it will take another week or so to completely get covered with the hairs. So now let's talk about the most sensitive and the most concerning topic after 2 weeks of hair transplant, that is the shedding phase or the hair fall phase. So anytime starting from day 10, the hair shedding process can start, and it can last for as long as 3 months post-transplant. That is when the whole hair cycle gets completed. So a transplant candidate can lose from 10% to almost 90% of the transplanted hair during this period. But as I've mentioned in my previous video, that the shedding of these hairs or losing these hairs does not mean that you have lost your transplanted hair graft. It's just a superficial hair that is not strong enough to held off on your scalp and usually falls off. So I started to have my hair fall started on day 15 onwards, and it was really very scary, and I get very anxious when I saw these hairs. But even if I knew that this is going to happen, but this is sort of a concern and a cause of anxiety for most of the hair transplant candidate after 2 weeks. So apart from this type of hair loss, that's the transplanted hair loss, there is another type of hair loss that cause shock loss. This shock loss is usually happen to the hairs that were previously present before transplant, and it happens in both of the areas, the donor area as well as the recipient area, and it occurs to those hairs that were previously present. So because of the surgical instrumentation of your scalp during the surgery, these hairs that were previously present suffers shock loss, and again this hair loss will become evident starting from 2 weeks and may last for about 3 months. So overall, if you want to see the actual result of your hair transplant, it will start getting evident after 3 months, and the final result would be ready by 6 to 8 months or maybe by a year. So coming towards the hair wash technique, as I've mentioned in the previous videos, I'm still following the same technique. I'm just going to give a brief overview of that in this video as well. So for washing the transplanted hairs, I usually pour a couple of mugs of mild lukewarm water, and once it's completely wet, I make a foam of shampoo in a mug and then pour that shampoo over this transplanted hair. Once this is done, I take shampoo and apply on the top of the head and put a bit of water so it can dribble down a bit on the transplanted hairs. Once this area is completely covered with this foam, I get more shampoo and apply it gently on the transplanted hairs and I do a very gentle motion. Because if you do a vigorous motion, these hairs are still very delicate and will fall off. So very gentle motion to apply the shampoo in the recipient area. So once this is done, I apply the shampoo to the rest of the hair in a normal manner, and then pour lukewarm water on my head to wash off this shampoo. So even after a completion of 3 weeks, when I dry up my hairs with the means of a gauze in the recipient area, I'm still seeing a bit of small residual white scabs, particularly in those areas in which the red scabs were present that didn't got washed away with the scab scrubbing head wash in the clinic. So those areas still shedding off a bit of white scabs, and along with those scabs there are few hairs that usually comes off when I'm drying my recipient area with the help of the gauze. Here's the picture of how this gauze looks like, or how many hairs I am losing with each hair wash after I try to dry my hairs with the help of this gauze. So this is the picture of the gauze that I used today after washing my hairs to dry up the recipient area. As you can see, there are lots of hairs that are coming out even with just gently tapping the gauze on the recipient area to dry up the remaining water on my head. And this is because the hairs are very fragile at the moment and are very thin and are easily breakable. And I'm expecting these hairs to grow back maybe in the next 3 months or so. And this is the picture after putting oil on my head while I'm doing the gentle massaging with the oil. And when I bring back my fingers and put on my palm, these are the amount of hairs that are falling off with each cycle of oiling. So now let's talk about the discomfort particularly present in the donor area. So by the end of the 3 weeks, this discomfort is still persisting in the donor area, particularly in the lower margin or the lower boundary of the donor area. And it usually happens when I put on a beanie or any type of hat, and the lower part of the hat or the beanie comes in contact with the lower part of the or the lower margin of the donor area. It did really causes a bit of discomfort, but it's fairly bearable. It usually lasts for say a couple of minutes when I put on the hat, and it goes away afterwards. So in terms of oiling, I'm still using coconut and the almond oil, using it on alternate day basis. And medication wise, I'm still taking the multivitamins, which I'll be taking till the end of 6 months at least. So thank you so much guys for watching this video, and I hope you liked it. Please subscribe my channel so you can get updates of newly posted videos. I'll be posting the next video in next week. That marks the completion of a month after the hair transplant, and I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.